covering the world of professional wrestling from coast to coast. A show by members of the Busted Open Nation. Welcome to the Nation's Corner. Here are your hosts, the Nation's Corner crew.
Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to Nation's Corner. I am Front Row. Joining me, as always, is the greatest truck driver of all time, Tony Justice, and our resident New Japan pro wrestling expert, Too Sweet Neil. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
What's up?
Well, there's a lot up. There's a lot going on this week to cover. A couple things. First, I want to give Hijacker Mike a huge shout out for that new intro, man. He put together a lot of pictures. A lot of folks have been doing some cool things all over the country and outside the country, and some really neat photos in there. And of course, you know, people, not just people associated with this show, but people in the Busted Open Nation are doing stuff all over the place every weekend. So shout out to everybody. And I want to shout out to Deb and Seth and John, who are out in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania tonight at a show. I think it's PPW. And they met up with Leo Sparrow, and it looks like they're having a great time. So check out their socials for some updates from the shows tonight, from the show tonight. So what have you guys been up to this week? Tell me what you got tonight.
You know, I'm in Kansas right now. I passed Dorothy on my way over here. Yeah, Dorothy and Toto were walking the lot back at a truck stop. In Liberal, Kansas is where I saw that. But anyway, so I'm here in Salina, Kansas right now, and I've been burning up the road this week.
Okay.
Man, what about you, Neil?
I was on this week from work, which was great. Needed it. He's in Rhode Island. Very peaceful on the beach. Went to Block Island, that place. Ate a lot of seafood. Missed this Front Row and Trenda can't do, but I and just a nice week off from work.
Nice. Yeah, it's always nice to take a little break away from work. We've got a vacation coming up at the end of August, so that's going to be fun. Actually, and next weekend is going to be a busy weekend because Saturday night is the Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view, and then Sunday here in Charlotte, New Japan's going to be here for their High Alert special, and our good friend Karen Peterson, who was on the show recently, is going to be driving up to Charlotte, going to that show with us too. So that's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot to get to, not only from the shows, but just in the world of pro wrestling this week. I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of things. I was listening to Busted Open this week, and I saw a quote from an interview with Chris Jericho that sort of supports this idea. I don't go on many rants, but you're going to hear a couple tonight. The term botch makes me crazy. It makes me insane to hear this word. And I know that that's a word, like, we as fans of Busted Open or fans of pro wrestling, we hear a lot of language used that are insider terms. And to me, it helps that I understand what they're saying, but I don't typically use the words myself, right? It's like a little kid who hears cursing all the time. They know the words, but they don't use the words with their parents. So when I hear stuff like botch, it's like, okay, to me that means someone who messed up a move in a match. I understand the meaning behind it. But when you see somebody on TV who's wrestling at a high level, doing stuff that none of us could ever hope to do, right? They have years and years of training and experience. Someone slips on a slippery top rope or just mistimes a move. Like, to me, that's not a screw up. That's not like a lack of expertise. That's just people are in a live performance and shit goes wrong. Sometimes stuff goes wrong and you just have to move on. It's no different than a musician missing a note, or, you know, someone singing a note off key or something like that. Stuff happens. And when you see people online using this term botch to describe stuff that you're seeing on TV, it it makes my skin crawl. So I was glad to see Chris Jericho. I think he spoke about it in a recent interview. I saw a transcript from it about how fans really shouldn't be using that word because they don't understand what goes on in the ring. You know, and even if you've been to a live show, especially if you've been to a live show, if you're up close and you see the action, you have a greater understanding for how hard it is to do what it is they do. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Tony. I don't know, you've been a wrestling fan for a very long time.
Right. I was a fan of wrestling before, way before the internet, before people thought it was cool to use those terms, because that's basically what it is, in my opinion, is people who are trying to feel like they're in the know and they're insider. And so they're going to use terms like botch or other terms that they use in the wrestling world that wrestlers may use with each other, because they've earned the right to use those terms, because they can say whatever the hell they want, because they're the ones doing it. They're the ones performing in the ring, and all these other fans who try to step outside the box and be more than a fan are the ones that are abusing all these terms. I mean, just be a freaking fan, watch whatever show is on TV, or like Deb and John are right now at PPW at a live event. They're there enjoying the live event. Whatever they do there, John and Deb are going to enjoy it, and they're not going to step out of line and do anything disrespectful. It's just fans feeling like they're entitled to say stuff like that, to be in the know, so they get more credibility for it. It's the way I look at it.
Agreed. Neil?
I couldn't agree more with what Tony said. It's like, just like you said, enjoy what you're watching. Me and JCW, which is your promotion of GCW, last Sunday, and we met. We met Drill Sergeant Lee, super nice guy, but me or John or him did not, like, oh, did you see that Botch? Oh, just talking to the other guy he's working with. No, sat there and we enjoyed the show, and because that's what we were there. So we're just gonna be fans, which is
Agreed. Neil, you're cutting out a little bit. I don't know. It's you're a little bit choppy on your headset here. So I think it's important, and one of the things that I think we get as a benefit of Busted Open is we get a lot of insider information, but I think it's important as fans to understand what we're hearing doesn't give us the authority or the privilege to use those terms, or to believe that we actually understand what it's like to be a professional wrestler, right? I listen to a lot of music. I would never criticize Metallica. You know what I mean? Like, just because I've listened to countless hours of their music doesn't make me an expert in playing the music. I'm still a fan, right? So that was just
metal up your ass.
Yeah, and
if
I
you
would
criticize them, you'd get metal up your ass. You wouldn't want that.
No, definitely not. No, and then I get trapped under ice, and it's just a terrible situation. Nobody wants that either.
Touche.
No, so there was a couple other things that happened this week that I wanted to touch on. There was a rumor in the dirt sheets about WWE going to, away from the TV from the PG era to like the TV 14. And I think it's been debunked. They said that that's not going to happen right now, but it started the conversation around, what do we as fans want to see? What do we want to see from our WWE product versus our AEW product? And also, what does that look like in 2022? We know what the Attitude Era looked like. Lots of sex and violence and cursing. Well, it's not 1998 anymore. So, and I look at a product like AEW, there's some bleeding, there's some cursing, but they don't over-sexualize stuff. There's a little bit here and there, but typically, like, people are presented as credible athletes. So what do you think that they would be able to do from a WWE perspective if they were to change the rating, Tony?
Well, I feel like we'll be seeing blood a lot more. That's one thing. As far as language and stuff, I mean, they kind of get by with some language over there right now, even now. I really don't know what else you could touch upon over there, or what you'd really want to touch upon over there, because, like you said, Front Row, they've gotten away from the TNA and all the stuff that they were doing in the Attitude Era. Women have come a long way since then, so you don't want to see that today because it just feels like a step backwards. So I don't know what other than blood, and being a bit more real, I guess, or involving more real life angles or something. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Oh, Neil?
So, it just changed. Like, are they going to go back to? They're going to work it in a new, different time. But for me, I'm just how it changes, because they always seem to change. It takes them a little bit, but then they hits they work out all the kinks, and it's great. Just going to be a fan and be intrigued, see how they change their shows.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt and differentiate themselves from AEW. I see Mongrovian Mike in the chat. I know he always wants to see more blood, but shout out to Mongrovian Mike, former host of the show, frequent host of the show, I should say. I think blood is fine when it makes sense in a match. We talked about this last week. We've talked about this in recent weeks, that I don't think that the gratuitous overuse of blood is helpful in telling the story where it doesn't make sense. Where like that, when Mox rolled out of the ring and all of a sudden he's covered in blood and nothing happened to him. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Brock Lesnar catches one to the forehead from Roman Reigns and starts bleeding. That makes sense to me. Like, okay, yeah. These guys are fighting, and there's going to be a little bit of blood, and it's not overused, I think. So I'm fine with a little bit more. I just don't want to see the overuse of it. I don't want to see anybody go overboard with stuff like that. I think the promos will probably have some more cursing in it. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of difference in the product, but I think people need to understand that Raw is on USA, which is a cable network, which is not governed by the FCC. So they technically, legally, can say and do whatever they want. They're only governed by the rules of the network, of the television network, and the sponsors. SmackDown is on network television. It's on Fox. They are governed by the FCC. So they still have to follow the guidelines of an 8 to 10 o'clock program as set by the federal government. So you're not going to see the same level of content on both shows, I don't think, unless they get some sort of waiver. I don't know how any of that stuff works. But as far as I understand, the rules are different on the two shows. And NXT is also on USA, so it falls under the same rules as Raw. A couple other things I wanted to talk about. I know we're going to get...
Can you bring me in?
What, Neil?
Oh, no. Brain fart.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, your headset's cutting out. Sorry, man. So one of the things I wanted to talk about this week, too, that really bugged me, and they talked about it on Busted Open at length the other day, was the Britt Baker promo. And, for the folks that don't know, about a month ago, there was a match between Thunder Rosa and Marina Shafir. There was a tweet by some fan about sandbagging, and Britt and some of her friends liked it, and it started a whole mess of trouble behind the scenes. And we know from posts and from stories and stuff that it didn't accomplish anything. It just made everybody involved look bad. So Thunder and Marina worked stuff out. They posted that nice post with the bread saying that they were working together, they were both getting better. And Didn't matter who was at fault. Didn't matter any of that stuff. They worked it all out. It was under water under the bridge. We're good. Then this week, Britt goes and puts a sandbag in her promo. And it made, so the promo, in my opinion, made everybody look bad and it didn't accomplish anything from the perspective of, in wrestling, if you are a top star, whether you're a good guy or bad guy, if you run everybody down and you tell the audience that your opponent isn't good, then you don't beat anybody good. And if you lose, you've lost to somebody who's not good. The old, if you don't make somebody, then who have you beaten? The promo did a couple of things wrong. First of all, most of the audience watching from home isn't on social media. We know that from the metrics. Yes, some of the people in the audience got the joke, but most people didn't. And I looked at the comment section for the promos and from Britt's post, and a lot of people didn't get the reference. It didn't make any sense, even from a logistical standpoint, why she had a bag of sand. No, most people didn't know. It made Thunder look bad. It made Britt look bad. And they're not in a feud. Yeah, there's this little tag team thing going on, but she's not challenging for the title. Britt is not a contender for Thunder's AEW Women's World title right now. So it comes across to me as a fan sitting at home as someone who's trying to get themselves written into a storyline that they're not currently in. I don't know. I'm not in those conversations. I don't know what goes on in the writer's room or with Tony or any of that stuff. But it came across as it came across as a promo that did a disservice to everybody involved. And I'm going to ask your opinion on something because Dave went on a rant about this the other day, and I agreed 100% with his sentiments about it. And Tommy sort of agreed too that it was a very very negative promo that didn't accomplish anything. And even Bully, who typically comes in with the devil's advocate position, he even said if they're not in a program together right now that ends with Thunder beating her up with a bag of sand, then it means nothing. And I think all it does is it stirs up the fans, Britt's fans online, and all this sandbagging bullshit just comes back again. And the last thing I'll say before I get your opinion on this, no one's ever accused Thunder of sandbagging. Even Marina said that didn't happen. And that's not even a term that's used in wrestling. Tommy went into great length about how nobody actually uses that term. It was just some fan online. So to me, there's no history of that. Everybody that's worked with her has had some of their best matches, Britt included. Go back and look. Britt's best matches in AEW were with Thunder, hands down. Take our personal relationships out of it. Take all of that out of it. Objectively, go look at all of Britt Baker's matches, and there's nothing as good as the matches that she had for the title with Thunder. So, okay, and we were hot when this happened. Just to pull the curtain back for you guys, we were all watching Dynamite on Zoom together, and there was a lot of pissed off people. Like us, this group here, and some of the Nation's crew, man, we were bullshit. Like it was not a good night. And I was like, what are they doing? Like this isn't what they're trying to accomplish. Okay, I'm done ranting. Tony?
All right. I think the term you were looking for a while ago when you were talking about the promo, it's very self-serving. Britt's promo was very self-serving to her because she's going into business for herself, obviously. Taking a term that's a hot button issue with Thunder, because behind the scenes, for whatever reason, we don't know because we're not behind the scenes, but the stuff that came out on social media, upset Thunder. So Britt knows that. So she's going to take this hot button topic and make a story, or try to make a story out of it, and do this promo to get herself over, to get herself, who knows, to get herself back in a program with Thunder when they're obviously past that right now. And one thing I want to talk about, you were ranting about it, and I was thinking about it in my head. It's kind of in comparison to the movie Goodfellas, where everyone's at the table. This scene of the movie right here, everybody's at the table laughing. Okay, Ray Liotta, may he rest in peace. Well, that's Britt Baker in this scenario, and everyone at the table is getting their laughs in on Thunder. But if you weren't sitting at that table, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what the sandbag thing's about. You don't know what the hell is a sandbag in the promo for? What are they talking about? If you weren't at the table, like in that movie, which is the sandbag stuff and behind the scenes stuff that shouldn't even be out there for the fans to it shouldn't even be out there right now because it's water under the bridge, you know. Arena and Thunder, they, you know, it wasn't even an issue with them. They handled their own stuff like real women do, handle their own stuff, made amends, friends, and then Britt comes in and it's like she knows it's getting under Thunder's skin, so she's gonna just cut whatever promo and cut whatever it is just to get under her skin, just to, in her mind, push Thunder's buttons or something. But it's not doing anybody any favors. It's very self-serving.
Yeah, and I want to get Neil's thoughts on this, but I want to add to that real quick. Britt wasn't in that match. Britt had nothing to do with that match. She wasn't in the storyline. She had literally nothing to do with that, and she's inserted herself into the situation. Neil?
She inserted herself into the situation to be all about her. All eyes have to be on Britt. Like the fact that they finally come to female stars like Thunder. Britt had her time to shine, and now we're going to focus on Thunder. We're going to focus on all the other women that are there, because she's just so used to it being her AEW Women's Champion. So the fact that she's bringing behind closed doors to just is her trying to get herself over and back to the main, get the title back from Thunder. But shouldn't happen because she had it.
So and I have to think, look, if I'm Britt Baker, I'm going to look for a way to build other people up so that I have this is women fighting for time on AEW every week. Everybody's fighting for airtime, right? And I think Tommy said it too. It was a waste of television time that's very, very valuable. I look at someone like Britt or even someone like Jade, and Jade kind of does the same thing. She runs down the competition, she runs down the roster, and they both of them tell the audience that everybody's terrible. Everybody can't hold up to their skill level. Well, okay, that doesn't help anybody build up a roster. How can you build up 5 or 10 credible women in a division if you have 2 of your top stars telling the audience that everybody sucks? The only time that works is if you have a bad guy doing that and the good guy wins and proves them wrong. But if you're not in a story with them and you're not in a feud with them, all you have is people running down your roster and telling people don't watch their matches. It essentially is what she's saying. Don't watch their matches because they're terrible. Well, how do you do that? We just saw Thunder go over to Tokyo Joshi Pro last week and have an absolute banger of a match with Yamashita-san, and who is coming to AEW in a couple weeks. I don't know when the match is supposed to be, but it's going to be relatively soon, to challenge for the AEW women's title. If you saw that match and they put it on Dark this week, go back and watch it if you missed it, because they beat the shit out of each other. And it's a reminder of what Japanese strong style is all about. So for Britt to criticize Thunder's in-ring by handing Tony the bag and saying, you carry her? Britt's never carried, never mind Thunder Rosa. So, yeah, and my wife's right. It's like they don't know how wrestling works. It definitely, look, we're just fans sitting at home watching and listening to Busted Open. We understand the basics of this. Like, if you're 8 or 10 years old, you understand it's a good guy versus bad guy thing, and they both have to look like they can win. The best stories are between 2 people who are at a high level who you believe can win. they've done it. They've done it with Liv Morgan, and we're going to talk about Liv Morgan. Like, Liv Morgan is a person who you wouldn't believe to be in this position a year ago, but man, through her hard work and through the way that they've positioned and presented her, she's a champion, and I believe she should be the champion. So it can be done right. I don't think it was done right here. The only other thing I want to add to this is Thunder's going all over the place representing AEW and the Women's World Championship. She was into Combate Global, where she did commentary for their MMA pay-per-view, and she was great. She had a lot of fun, sounded like she was knowledgeable, but she's out there building the brand beyond the wall regular TV programming. I don't see a lot of other people doing that. So I'm glad that she's with AEW, and I hope that they value the work that she's putting in. Okay, I'm done ranting on all that stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming pay-per-view, Death Before Dishonor, because, you know, when we got the announcement that Tony Khan had bought Ring of Honor, we were all sort of skeptical about what was going to happen there and how is he going to handle this? And it's a personal purchase. AEW doesn't own it. Tony owns it. And like, what's going to happen? Well, they've slowly been building stories. They've been reminding us of all of the Ring of Honor titles. They've been keeping them in the public eye. And now they've built a card. I'm looking at this 5-match card that's been advertised so far. And this is an absolute must-see pay-per-view. My fear was that they were going to give us a product that was not Ring of Honor-esque. Like it was going to be just a mixture of AEW people. But if you look at this card, this is a Ring of Honor card. Right? So how do you guys feel about the build to this card and sort of what we have in store?
Well, they've been doing a good job on AEW television building up these matches, especially with Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal. That's been building for quite some time now, and the Mercedes Martinez and Serena Deeb, they've been doing a good job of building that as well the past couple of weeks. But a match that was announced last night was the Jonathan Gresham versus Claudio Castagnoli. That is going to be the match of the night, I think. I can't wait to see that. I'm so excited that Claudio is in AEW.
Yeah, Tony, on the match of the night thing, for me, the match of the night is FTR versus the Briscoes.
Touche.
And that's never really watched Ring of Honor, this pay-per-view, but strictly title match of Wheeler Yuta versus pure wrestling in ROH, completely different than the we watch that we know, like the different, just the whole way you structure the match, because it's just so amazing to watch them, think and remember. And one of the rules is you get 3 rope breaks. After you've used all 3, it does not matter. So that's like one of the things that intrigued me when they brought pure wrestling back. They went away at the end of last year. So the ROH pure title match of Wheeler Yuta, very, very good.
Yeah, I'm looking at this whole card, and you can almost argue that any one of these matches could be match of the night, or even the sleeper match. As you mentioned, the Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia match, like that's not a match that you would think would be the top compared to the other ones that we've already listed, but it could be. Like it absolutely could be. Mercedes Martinez, to me, even though she's not a traditional Ring of Honor talent, she exemplifies all the qualities of a Ring of Honor pro wrestler. And to have her versus Serena Deeb, 2 very technical, very physical competitors, for fans of Ring of Honor, and we've been to a bunch of shows, you come to expect that style of wrestling from the brand. And to put those 2 women in a title match on pay-per-view, I honestly can't even call the winner, because Serena Deeb is one of the best in the world from a technical perspective. Mercedes Martinez is as tough as they come. And and to see this match put on a global television, a global pay-per-view product, I'm excited about. And either one of them could represent the company well as their champion.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
Serena is just a technician in the ring. You know, her matches with Thunder themselves were just technical matches. I mean, legendary matches. So, and the things that she's done backstage with NXT. So, her being in a program with Mercedes, yeah, that's going to be a great match. It's going to push Mercedes to her limits, I'm sure. So, yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and to Neil's point, you know, we saw FTR versus the Briscoes the last time around, and it was one of the best tag matches I've seen in a long time, but it's been one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. It was the storytelling, the psychology, the physicality, all of it was done at an exceptionally high level, and I came away from that match like needing a cigarette. It was a good match, man. So, but can they top it? This is a 2 out of 3 falls tag match, which is kind of interesting. Will it go 1-1-1, or will they go 2 right away? Like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they put that together and what we see. But to me, that's the match that would probably be the best match of the night. But as I said, like Gresham versus Claudio, sure. The height and size difference is going to be a very intriguing story. Samoa Joe versus Jay Lethal is probably the one I'm least excited about, and I like both guys. Like, I think both guys are terrific in ring, but just from like and Samoa Joe obviously is, and both guys are like ROH in the blood kind of guys. But I don't think that's going to be a 30-minute match. I think that's going to be a 10 to 15-minute match. It's going to be physical and it's going to be done.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we're gonna see some interference. Something's gonna go awry during that match, and it's just gonna come apart. Yeah, I see that match opening up the card as actually.
So let me ask this question: who else would you like to see if they announce that there are Ring of Honor TV tapings coming up? Which I have to think they have to be announcing at some point soon, because I know they've been working on. Tony Khan's spoken about this in interviews, that they're working on a TV deal, like he wants to have everything in place before they announce all that, right? Who else would you put on that roster? Who, whether it's from Ring of Honor, AEW, or outside from the independents, like who would you like to see would fit in Ring of Honor today?
I would like to see them bring like Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett, and those just bring a lot of those people that were there before, you know, because that's what gives the feel, you know. Who really impressed me recently, pandemic and everything, Shane Taylor, and was very, very good. Like, I'd love to see that. Independently, I'm kind of biased. It's that hard hitting, you know, maybe like a Janai Kai, like in the just the striking and how hard you hit in the match. What really intrigued me into Ring of Honor like 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Tony?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going away from Mission Pro. I like to see Holiday return to Honor and be in the women's division over there. Holiday is someone that she deserves to be in the spotlight. She is, you know, F around and find out, as she likes to say. Yeah, she is tough as they come in Mission Pro. And if you haven't seen a Holiday match, you're doing yourself a disservice. She is, I mean, I've witnessed personally every time she finishes matches, she gets a standing ovation from the entire crowd there. almost every time. And yeah, so she could add to the women's division over there. She could be top tier in the women's division over there. She could challenge Mercedes Martinez for that Ring of Honor Women's Championship. But that Holiday's one I'd like to see over there.
Okay, I'm going to throw a couple names at you that I would like to see over there. One is Speedball Mike Bailey. He, since the pandemic, since he returned, and I've had a chance to actually see him wrestle. I know he's been around a while, but I started to become more and more aware of him through the pandemic and his story of being stuck out of the country. And he and Veda have this amazing story together, Veda Scott. And seeing the stuff he's been doing in GCW is unbelievable. Yeah, he's a bit of a high flyer, but he's also like a very accomplished martial artist. And the stuff that he does, it looks good because it is good. He's really hitting and really kicking and doing those things. And one of the people I wanted to add here, and John Bay says it here in the chat, Kylan King, absolutely. The mother effing King, she can wrestle like a really hard-hitting style that would fit well. And the third person I would add would Alley Catch. Alley Catch has had some unbelievable matches in GCW and in Mission Pro and just all over the place. I think her style, her like no bullshit, like just hard hitting, very brawling style would work well with Ring of Honor. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope they announce TV soon because I'd really like to see. Oh, and RA Davis in the chat has a great suggestion. Pretty proper. Lady Frost and Savage Gentlemen, friends of the show. We've had the good fortune to spend some time with them in person and do interviews, and they're just good people and great wrestlers. And they would be a killer tag team if they have a mixed tag or even in their own divisions in Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
To your point of Mike currently signed with Impact and the Impact.
I'm sorry, Neil, you cut out. I think Lady Frost announced that she had left Impact.
I said that Mike Bailey Impact and the Impact X Division champion. Okay. My bad. I wasn't aware of that. But either way, I'd still like to see him in Ring of Honor. Make it happen. Wave a wand. Throw money at it. I don't care. So I want to touch on a couple of WWE things, and then I want to jump over to AEW because there were a couple of things that happened this week that I think are really interesting. And that is Theory is one of those guys that you look at his story and you can almost view him as a Roman Reigns-esque. He's being forced on us. I hate the term being pushed down people's throats because it's a TV show. You watch it because you want to. Stop it with that bullshit. But he's featured very heavily. The difference is everything he's been given from all of his segments with Vince McMahon, all the stuff that he did leading up to the WrestleMania stuff, his segments backstage, the dude is just killing it. He's entertaining as hell. He's like a great wrestler, tells a good story, very young, lots of possibility. So I see him as a guy that's getting a lot of focus, but also hitting home runs every time he's out there. He went out there sort of playfully last week when Paul Heyman was cutting his promo, but then he got real serious. He's like, Brock, like you beat the shit out of me and I want revenge. Like he has a gripe with both Brock and Roman. So even though, and maybe this is a separate topic, as we sort of lead into SummerSlam, but the cash in would mean a lot because he has reasons to go after either guy. So in that match, if both Brock and Roman are beaten down, you don't know who he's going to go for to try to get that title, right? But I just wanted to get your thoughts on are you liking what they're doing with Theory? Do you think he's on TV too much? Not enough?
At first, when he was paired with Vince McMahon, I didn't see it. I was like, okay, where are they going with this? If Vince is going to attach himself to someone, it's got to mean something, big. that we don't see or whatever, but Vince sees it. But as the story went on, and as he was on TV more and more with Vince back in his office, in the ring, and especially at WrestleMania, when I saw Theory live, that's when the light bulb went on for me, when I was like, wow, this guy's entertaining. This guy's, got something, No wonder he's paired with Vince, That match with Pat McAfee, that was awesome. That was all the stuff that happened in that match was awesome. Even when Vince getting in the ring and doing all that stuff that he did. But since WrestleMania, they changed Theory's name to just Theory, not Austin Theory. And now he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, so it's something else that he can have to build story with. They're going to milk that briefcase, I think, for a long time. But they talked about it on Busted Open about the scenario with SummerSlam coming up with Roman Reigns and Rock, last man standing. And Tommy brought it, Tommy talked about it, Bully talked about it, how Theory could come down and not have to do a thing, just stand in the ring, both men out in the ring, out laid out, and he could come in there and win the championship. They could do that for shock value, just to get the shock value up, because we all know WWE needs that right now. So, but Theory, it's like you're slowly turning the volume knob up on Theory, and right now it's at almost max, because there are great things in his future. I see him being the face of the company at some point, and he's just entertaining.
Yeah, Neil.
Yeah. No, absolutely entertaining. He was, before they brought him up, and he's doing. How can you not think the kid's there with Vince McMahon, because Vince isn't going to do something? And I really liked his Paul Heyman last night. I laughed. Paul's hilarious when he does stuff like that, and the smirk on his face. Kid's got it, and I would love to keep dragging that briefcase out.
Yeah, I agree. And I know Hijacker had some thoughts too. I know I always forget to welcome Hijacker into the show. He was lurking in the background doing all kinds of production work. Hijacker, you had some thoughts on Theory?
Yeah, when I see Theory on TV, I think of Drew McIntyre 10, 12 years ago. Man tried to bring him in and become that mega star way. But McIntyre had to leave for a few years back, and look at the status he gained when he returned. Theory, I like Theory. I like what he's about. I like him taking pictures of himself with the talent. They get jumped. That's perfect. That's pretty cool. But I don't want them to overwear after 6 months. He's going to be burned out, and the fans are going to be burned out. Then WWE is going to end up letting them go, and you just don't want to see it. But I just hope they do the right thing and keep him used, oversee him, and get too saturated with him on TV.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do at SummerSlam, because they've spent so much time hyping up the possibility of a cash-in that I think it's almost too obvious at this point. I would almost like to see him come out to attempt to cash in and have the Usos, the Bloodline, Sami Zayn, somebody knock him out or derail that attempt, and let him, because the best versions of a Money in the Bank or Mr. Money in the Bank or Miss Money in the Bank are when they're held by bad guys, right? Like a heel holding that briefcase for 6 months to a year tells a better story than the immediate cash in. I'm not a big fan of the immediate cash in. It made sense in other cases, but like most of the time, I think you're missing the equity and the opportunity to tell those stories, especially with a guy like Theory, who's going to take it. He's going to be lurking in the airport. He's going to be doing all kinds of shit with it. Like, I think he's going to be very interesting. And I think there's a lot of possibilities of things that they could do with him.
Yeah.
The only other WWE.
I wanted to say one more thing on Theory. To piggyback what Hijacker said about Theory after he beats him down, taking selfie stuff. It just hit me. My friend Sonny Ono, the innovator of the selfie, by the way, you know, he was Ultimo Dragon's manager in WCW, and he would come out with Ultimo Dragon, and the first thing they would do is they would take a selfie. And so that's basically where Theory got that from, Sonny Ono. It just hit me. So, yeah, there you go. Shout out to Sonny Ono.
Nice. The other big thing this week is everything that Pat McAfee does is super entertaining. I don't know how he does it. He's not a pro wrestler, but he cuts an incredible promo. The guy is wildly entertaining on commentary. Michael Cole has said that he's completely reinvigorated his love for the business and his role as lead commentary. And the stuff that he's done with Corbin, stuff that he did with Adam Cole, like, he's very, very creative and very funny. And for folks that know Pat, I don't know Pat, but I know people who do. He's a very intelligent guy who knows where the line is, what he needs to do to get the other people over, to get storylines over. So I think everything that he does so far has been a home run. So I have nothing. There's nothing that I have that tells me that this isn't going to also be great.
Right. Pat McAfee is gold. It's like they went out and dug for gold and just hit the jackpot with Pat McAfee, because he is not only talented behind the mic, but he's also talented in the ring. And he has his own ring at his place. So he practices all the time. And so the dude is he could pass for a talent. I mean, normally whenever you hear of a commentator or someone that's not normally a wrestler coming in to do a match, you're like, you know, you're not really looking forward to it because it's like a gimmick match or something like that. But when Pat McAfee is involved, for me, you know, his match at WrestleMania, like I just said, that was one of the matches, my favorite matches, seeing that live. So now knowing he's going to be wrestling Baron Corbin at SummerSlam, I can't wait to see it. It's just, you can't wait to see what Pat McAfee does. And I mean, he's just gold.
Agreed. Neil?
Yeah, said it. And I just and then I mean, because that was part of the heel that you don't like, but he can NXT with Adam Cole, and then on SmackDown, just awesome to see what he does with Baron Corbin at.
Yeah, agreed. So while we have a few minutes left before we wrap, there's a couple things I wanted to touch on in AEW, and some good, some bad. I think they're doing a lot of good stuff over there. I think bringing in New Japan talent, showcasing a guy like Takeshita was terrific. You know, Neil and you guys, you and John saw him recently at an independent show. He's got a huge future, super talented guy. I like what they're doing with the new presentation of Luchasaurus as this dark, evil thing. It's a far more believable presentation for a guy his size who can move like he does. It's not silly anymore. I really believe he can go in there and beat the shit out of somebody because he can. So I'm really liking what he's doing, especially with Christian Cage. I'm not crazy about what they're doing with the TBS title. I think they've got to a point where there's nobody left for Jade to run through, and you're not telling any stories. I know that they're sort of building towards maybe Athena or Chris Statlander, but even so, like, the story is very thin, and I don't know if they lose, you're kind of stuck in a position with Jade where there's nothing left to do with her. So if they don't start really building a credible threat, someone who's running through the rest of the roster or stacking up wins, then you paint yourself into a corner with a character like her. She has the looks, She presents as this, badass champion, but she's never had like those 5-star matches where if Toni Storm goes in there and challenges her to a 30-minute time limit match, it's not going to go well for Jade. It's going to expose her, whatever you want to call it. Like, she gets in there with people who are going to really test her ability to wrestle a match. I think it's going to be a rough night at the office. So I think they really need to pay more attention to building credible threats. And Jade has to stop telling us, again, like I said before, she has to stop telling everybody that all the other wrestlers are bad, because they're not. Fans watch matches. They watch the show. They know that there are better wrestlers on the roster than Jade.
Right.
I don't know her personally. That's not a dig at her. She's just only been around for a minute. She hasn't had 10 or 15 years or 20 years of experience in the ring to wrestle a 30 or 60-minute 5-star match. She doesn't have it in her right now. But we'll see. We'll see as we get there. Hey, shout out to Shofi in the chat. I also agree that Chris Statlander would be a great TBS champ. I think Chris down the road would make for a great AEW Women's World Champion. There's a short list of people that I would like to see eventually win the title from Thunder. I don't want to see Thunder lose the title, but we know eventually she has to. And Chris Statlander's on that list for me, along with people like Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida. And Abaddon. Yeah, but I don't know what's going on with her. She's had like almost no matches this year. I don't know what they're doing with her.
Yeah.
I do also really like what they did by bringing those independent matches to Dark this week. Pac's match from the UK and Thunder's match from Japan. I like the presentation of it, and I really like the fact that they added their own commentary. So it felt like an AEW presentation. And it also gives them the opportunity to use that footage when they tell the story of Yamashita when she comes here. So I wanted to ask you guys, do you think that they should bring Yamashita over and just introduce her in a video package? Or do you think that she should have matches here leading up to her title challenge?
I feel like she should come in with some matches, then make reference to her beating Thunder, make reference to that, have the match with Thunder at a later date, possibly at All Out. But build her up as far as having her come in and have some matches, like put her against some talent that isn't getting any TV time as it is. Put her against some of the women that are back there, wanting to be on TV. Build her up that way. That way the people can see, okay, she's coming in and she's not just coming in for her opportunity. She's coming in and she's earning more in the fans' eyes. So whenever she does meet Thunder, whenever they decide to have the match, it's going to mean that much more.
Oh yeah. No, but they should do videos, and you should show some of her match pro, like show clips of what she can have her in the ring as well. Work said with some of the women that don't get a lot just there, have her do up, even though we already know that she's under. Just build her up so the match when it was live, or they know who she is, so they get more.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't know how long she's here for. I don't know how long her trip to America is, so I think they have to be judicious with her time. I know she has like at least 1 or 2 independent shows that says she's going to be doing, and then leading up to her match with Thunder. And I have to think that would be within the next 2 to 3 weeks, but I don't know. They haven't really advertised, just based on the fact that we know when she's coming to the United States on the dates that she's booked. I would guess that she would probably be on AEW TV towards the end of July or the beginning of August. So that does give them a few weeks to tell that story. And they are very good at putting vignettes together. And of course, as I said, now that they have access to the footage from the match, they can, if Tokyo Joshi Pro allows them to use some footage from her other matches, they can also tell a bigger story about how credible she is as a challenger. I do want to spend just a minute. We have a couple of minutes left. I want to give a shout out to all of our friends over at Mission Pro Wrestling. They've been very good to us. We've been supporting them for 3 years now. We've been sponsors for about 3 years, and they just keep getting bigger and better. And there's just bright things on the horizon for them as a company and as a family. They have a pay-per-view coming up in August, and there's the matches on here, man. You got Genocide versus Kylan King. You've got Danny B's returning. Danny B's been really making a name for herself everywhere, and she was on the Oklahoma shows. You've got Holodead and Jasmine Allure. Jasmine's challenging for the Mission Pro title. And then, of course, you got La Rosa Negra versus Nova Phoenix. That's going to be a great pay-per-view. But we also heard this week on Busted Open, originally, I think the story that we were hearing on Busted Open was that Dave and Thunder were going to have a match. That's not the case. I guess what we're going to be seeing now in December, I think it's on December 10th is the pay-per-view. Thunder and Dave are teaming up for charity, to raise money for charity, which is really cool.
Ooh.
And we don't know who they're going to be facing yet. I personally would like to see it be Bussy, Effie, and Alley Catch. There's also some other names out there. I've seen some people tag themselves in posts. So as we start to see more and more around this, and of course, they talked about this on the Thunder Hour this week. That's going to be a fun pay-per-view. And I think Mrs. Front Row and I are going along with you, Neil, and Tony. And I think we're going to get we're going to get a big group of people together to head to San Antonio in December for a little early Christmas present.
Yeah. Come to San Antonio. We're going steaking. Not really. But
No, we're not. You're not doing that. Sorry, Brian.
We're gonna go do your other favorite thing. We're gonna do.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes on that. They've got a lot of stuff coming up. They have their anniversary show in September, which I can tell you is going to be a lot of fun. And we can't share the details yet, but there's a match that's being booked for that show that's going to be very interesting. And shout out to Sean because he knows why. Anything else that you guys wanted to touch on tonight before we wrap up?
Yes, I would like to give a shout out to one of our Nation crew members, Todd. He is at a live event also. He is at New South Pro Wrestling. They're based out of Alabama. I think that's where it's at. Florence, Alabama, at the Sing River Brewery. Flowtown Showdown is what they're calling it. So that's where Todd's at right now. So shout out to Todd. Have a great time.
Have fun, Coach. Awesome. Well, we had a lot of fun this week. I appreciate you guys jumping on tonight and having a good time on the show. Lots of stuff coming up in the following weeks. And Tony, where can folks find you on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter at TonyJustAJFA. If you're a Metallica fan, you know what that means.
Neil?
Right there, too sweet, Neil. If you know what that, I applaud you for it. Because we know I like to drink the beers, but I won't say what behind the scenes. But yes, too.
Nice,
Neil.
And I am at PW Front Row.
Neil, hold on, Front Row. Neil, when you announce your name, you gotta put some pizzazz with it. You gotta go. You can find too sweet. There you go. It's just a
and make sure you point
Nice.
at your name because your finger was off camera there while you were pointing at your name.
Yeah. Right there.
We're here to make you better, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rookie.
I know.
All right, and we are on Twitter at Nations Corner and all other social media at The Nations Corner. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Appreciate y'all. Have a great week.